What's up, everyone? This is Nick Clark, your host for today's show of Play Hard and Love Big Radio, the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup, based out of Folsom, California. You can check us out at spotteddogyoga.com. We have an awesome guest. He's coming onto the show for the second time this season, Dr. Ron Sims from Back to Health Chiropractic. What's up, Ron? How are you, buddy?
Good, Nick. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing awesome. One of the things that I just love about our pregame talks and any time we run into each other and any conversations that we have is that you're constantly learning, man. It's like you're always reading, you're always learning from your experiences, and you're so generous in sharing that as well. And I really appreciate that. So thanks for always being a learner, man. But what I'm curious about, and I know what our people are curious about, is what you're learning right now. What are you focused on now? What are you reading?
Gosh, such a great question. I've read a couple great books this year. I've read some awesome studies. I've been diving into studies more, reading literature, and just kind of diving into, for me lately, it's been more how to clean up my body from a biotoxin standpoint. I'm using myself as a guinea pig to go through some heavy metal cleansing and some biohacking in that space. And in learning in there that there's so many well-intended programs out there. And we could talk about diet because there's a lot of different varieties of diets out there. But even deeper than that, upstream of that is how healthy are my cells? Am I tapping into anti-aging pathways in my cells, or am I damaging my cells from biotoxins from an inefficient body is producing, or environmentally that I'm exposing myself to through the countless products that have things in there that may not be so good for us? And so these accumulations of these heavy metals, we see more beautiful sunsets and there's more chemicals in the air now than ever in our environment. And so you start looking at all that and start to dive deep into, what can I do to heal my cells? Then the layer above that would be, what diet do I choose to follow? Because diet style and doing cleanses and going keto and doing paleo and all that stuff is great at one level, but I feel like so many people are missing a layer much, much deeper than that, that is not allowing any diet they ever try to really work with some sort of sustainability, right? So that's kind of been where I'm at in my journey. I always like to use myself as the guinea pig, and I surround myself with really good coaches, and you got to pay to play, right? And so, continuing education has costs, so that's kind of where my head is. I never want to be a prideful practitioner. I always want to be humble and realize, there's things that I used to think that now I'm sincerely was wrong about, and starting to rectify that and say that openly to people. So that's kind of been where I'm
Hmm.
at, kind of on a journey. I'm still real busy as a clinical practitioner, but I'm doing that on the side best I can at night. And so that's something we could do a whole podcast on as I grow in that. But anyway, the other thing within that, Nick, is diet style. What I always want to ask you, what's your diet style?
Well, I guess my diet style is very high protein based. Like really, I focus a lot on staying hydrated and then refueling with a lot of protein. And I've taken sugars out as much as I can. But like in the morning time, right when I wake up, I have electrolyte water before I have my coffee. Well, I mean, I step back. Like I wake up, I have electrolyte water, and then I have protein, typically like 4 to 6 eggs,
Yeah.
and then I get into my coffee, and then at that point I'm ready to roll till about noon. And noon, I'm kind of a grazer, but again, like it's more like I focus more in on proteins than I do with any other source of energy. Carbohydrates are okay for me, but just like simple carbohydrates, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, all those kind of things. But for the most part, I really just try and focus in my diet. If that's the answer, like the diet
Yeah.
style,
Yeah.
really what I'm trying to focus on is eliminating processed foods and excess sugar and things that really aren't great for my body on a cellular level. And I've noticed a whole lot of shifts. I'm sleeping better. I have more energy, more vitality. I feel like I'm more focused in my listening. I'm more present when I'm actually listening to the words that I'm saying and communication. And I feel like just much more alive since I've shifted my diet, you know?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I hope you would say. Yeah, I like that. And I think we go through different seasons, and you're an athlete, your body could obviously assimilate and break down carbs pretty easily, but that you chose to make your carbs of a natural, vegetable and fruit variety is the key there, right? Some of the best evening snacks can be just raw vegetables. You know, we were grazing on snap peas and having a great. It was like so tasty, but there's
Oh
so
yeah.
much. And then the proteins. Are you going after obviously animal proteins? Are you doing vegetable proteins as well? Obviously you
Mainly
are,
I'm
but are
just
you? Yeah.
mainly I go for like animal protein.
Yep.
I'm pretty heavy in eating meat, I would say. And I've got everything like as far, I've got some really healthy bars that I like that are called R2G bars. They're good. They're like a kind of like a perfect bar, which I know you
Yeah.
like, but they're a little less greasy. For
Yeah.
me, like that little layer of grease. I love perfect bars, man, but there's that little layer of grease on top of them. And so this bar that I eat is really yummy, fills me up, but it doesn't have as much grease. It seems like a little bit more substance based with like
Yeah.
peanuts and stuff in it.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to hook you up with some of those. But yeah, like anything. I mean, eggs, meat, chicken, red meat, fish. Love eating fish. There's a lot of steelhead up here in Idaho, and the guy across the street from me, he always goes steelhead fishing. So I always end up with steelhead, even though I've never caught one. you know,
You should
but
maybe learn at some point. But
yeah, definitely should, man.
yeah, one thing I was talking with and learning is sometimes it's nice to do, for me, have your foundational plan that you live by, which you just described yours eloquently, which is probably, let's just say, leaning toward carnivore. Almost, you're almost a carnivore vegetarian combo guy if you look at it. Do you
Yeah,
do any?
I kind of am.
Yeah, do you do breads and grains at all?
I do some, typically it's stuff that Katie makes.
Yeah,
Like she's very into just
sourdough or
make
starters.
yeah, sourdough starters, yeah, really good stuff like that. But what I notice is I just don't perform as well or feel as well the more carb like those kind of complex carbohydrates that I'm eating. So I try to minimize them as much as I can.
Sometimes after a ride, a warm piece of that with some free range butter
Ooh,
uh, is kind of your body's going to assimilate that pretty easily. But no, I'm kind of with you, and you're very similar to me. And what I've done lately is I will then throw periodically some intermittent fasting. Only in that I'll go because I need the calories. I'm constantly going. So for me to live in a 4 to 6 hour window, I've tried it. I get too lean. I don't like how I feel. But I'll add that in periodically just to kind of get into a little bit of ketosis if I feel like my body needs that. You kind of get, I think the better you eat, the more in tune you are with your body.
hmm.
I really know that to be true for me, but I think you're experiencing that too. Is like I'm thinking clearer. I have more energy. People are attracted to me more. So I think that's cool that you're doing that. And then the other one is I'll do these 10 to 21 day cleanses or a 10-day cleanse where you do no meat at all, just
Ooh,
to activate your liver a little bit and take some specific supplements. So for you, a guy like you would be like once every 12 to 18 months, I would do that. We just throw that
okay.
in just to see what your body, and that's not the week to like go out and do your epic mountain bike rides and your crazy yoga flows. I would be a kind of a recovery week where you do a 10-day reset kind of program. So that's kind of what I've been doing lately is I have my foundation that I live by, and we can almost argue part of what you're saying is Mediterranean too, because there are a lot
Mm.
of fish and meat and fresh vegetables, right? Now they'll throw some yummy breads in there too, but starter, sourdough, holistic, made from the right elements, made the right way. That's what I love about Europe. The food's so much better, and they take so much time. Like even what Katie's doing with her bread is it takes time. It's like easier just to order bread, but it's so much more rewarding when you make it, you know?
Yeah, totally. The kids call Katie's bread Katie's power bread. They love
I
it.
love that.
They're like, Yeah, and and I don't feel bad cutting them off some massive slices of that, hooking them up with some organic peanut butter, and like even a little honey on top, whatever, boys, you
Yeah,
go for it. No, but it is true, right? Like in Europe, they really are eating what's coming from the earth, and at that point in time in that season, and then also they are taking the time to produce, to make their bread and to make what they're eating, because there's in some places in those small towns there's just really not those super huge supermarkets or Costco's where they can go and load up on bulk food that's boxed up or canned up and stuff with preservatives, and so you look
terrible.
at those yeah,
It's
you look at those
terrible.
people and it's like, wow, they're like vibrant. Their color, their skin is vibrant, their eyes are awake and clear, and they just seem at ease. And like, I think like as if they were living like a balanced life. There is that like feeling that you get from those people. And not just Europe. I mean, there's certain little pockets all over the place that are like that, but then I go to the airport in the United States, and a majority of people seem to be like the opposite of that in a lot of ways, out of shape, discolored, like kind of pale. A lot of them, their eyes seem like sunk back. And not again, not everyone, but a big portion of people really seem to have let life take over, and they've taken this simpler route, and it's just affecting their overall health and well-being, and so I care about those people. I know you do too, Ronnie. It's like I just want that's
Yeah.
all why I do what I do every single day, and why I strive to be a better person, is because I want people to see what I'm doing and hopefully be inspired to do it for themselves, and I think that that works. I love that what we do, and I love having you on the show because it really shares a positive energy that people can take with them.
Yeah, and I tell my team that all the time, that when you meet somebody or they come into our practice, you might have an opportunity to be the only person that was kind to them today, right? And so people have lost hope. Isolation fed into that. Obviously, COVID, the whole thing we went through with all that changed a lot of that. And so I think, what I love about what you're doing, and what I love about group fitness and accountability and that tribe you get in, how important that is, and how much, it's not just for us about lifespan, it's about health span. And even this new one I've been reading about muscle span, where how
Mm.
long do your muscles stay good, or do you get frail later in life? Because we know frailty is a recipe for decline. And yeah, we could keep people alive with certain medications now, but it's not health span. That's disease span and a loss of muscle span. And so that's kind of, you're right. That's the American model now. But I am encouraged because I've seen in my practices an uptick in the energy and the amount of young moms. I'll say they're my heroes right now, are these young moms, the Katies of the world. You're great, you're awesome. But anyway, they're the ones really driving the agendas. They're the ones putting the food in the mouth. They're the ones going to the doctor's appointments, taking them to all the sports. Yeah, you and I are definitely involved. Don't get me wrong. But in the American family, the mom is the driver of all these initiatives. And so I'm seeing this group of moms that are into it. They're following the biohackers. They're into health and wellness. Some are becoming health coaches. And so in my community, I'm very encouraged lately, because I was getting very discouraged for a while and seeing the downturn of the health of our children. So, it's just been, I don't know, I'm excited, I would say. And again, that's why I'm staying in the game, man. I'm not giving up, even
No
though,
way.
yeah, we may never win the battle, but we're going to win a lot of little victories along the way that are going to create these new family trees that are healthy and vibrant. Because I don't know, man, there's so many layers to health, right? And you see all these young children doing self harm to themselves, and it's trendy, and it's kind of the way to go out if things aren't going your way, is to give up. And so I just feel like if the Nicks and the Ronnies and the other holistic people on this phone or on this podcast, if we all as a community say, you know what, we can help the next generation through our grandkids, through our great grandkids, through the kids we coach. It's not the time for the Nicks and Ronnies and the passionate people out there that are into health. to take their eye off and just give up. And I have 4 really good practitioners that work with me that are just like me. We're not giving up. We're going to keep working with these young children. We're going to keep focused on this. We're not going to, it's too easy to give up. We can't.
Hmm. Well, can you, from your perspective, what are some of the things that young kids are dealing with now that we can set better examples for them? Or I don't know if setting better examples is the right word, but what are some of the things that kids are dealing with right now that you think are the most detrimental to their health moving forward?
Well, to be blunt, it's parents that don't have their health in order. It's not a priority. Their life isn't in order. Their marriage is maybe not in 100% in order. Their finances may not be in order, whatever. Or you might have
Mm-hmm.
one component that looks really good. You got the money's going good, but there's this brokenness at the top of the family structure that I see, and they're in this hectic pace of keeping up with the Joneses. We get our kids in this year-round bandwagon of something, whether it be dance, music, sports. It's out there. You can spend a fortune at it, and it's dividing these relationships because it creates a divide and conquer home, where you got to go to this girl's tournament over there, my son's got a tournament here, and then so I think for my wife and I, it's so far upstream of always we're dating, always saying words of affirmation to my wife about my wife in front of my boys. I have 2 boys. And even to this day, I model that behavior like Valentine's Day, her birthday, I'm all in, man. Every day, words of affirmation. I could always do better and I'm always working at it. But to me, it started there. And then for us was fitness. That was one of our core values was just faith. Her and I were connected to the Lord. We're really into our relationship that we have through our local church. And that's very important to us, always has been. We truly bought into the spiritual idea that two become one as we lead this family together. And was it always easy? No. Was it always how it is now? We're finally at a point where we're enjoying the fruits of our labor. We have a lot of alone time together. We really enjoy each other's company. But it all started for us with was faith, family structure, of making sure the boys were into fitness. Like that was huge for us. Healthcare provider, I always wanted to model that behavior. I was a competitive athlete like yourself, so I was always into some sort of sport. Then I got them into skiing and mountain biking and golf, and just wanted them to experience things where we could go do it together that didn't have them fixated on a screen, because I knew their future self, they were going to have jobs that are fixated on their screens. And I just knew what that was going to do to their brains, their posture, right? Their alignment, their form, their energy. And so I knew the world, and we know the world our kids are going into. So I think we have to be more intentional about setting up a really fit house. And it starts with
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad. If we can get mom and dad fit, and we have it happen in our practice, but sadly, Nick, far too often, it's because they came in severe crisis. So they got to go through a 4 to 6 month season of repair and recovery before they even consider changing their life, let alone their kids' lifestyle. And we used to drag the kids to the gym a lot, and they would whine and complain just like at Sunday school initially. But then after a while, like little puppies, they meet a friend there and they can't wait to go to the gym. Next thing you know, they've never stopped going to the gym and they've never stopped going to church and they've never stop following these principles. We're so grateful. We feel like we did it right in that neither of our kids went prodigal. And I pray, and I know that won't happen to you either because of how you're setting it up. You're setting it up in a very similar way. But it was always
Mm.
fitness fun, and I always thought them like puppies. I want them to be exhausted. And by the way, we did book club and we read, but we also did boot camp, and we have a huge family respect for the military and for the armed services and our local services, our firemen, our police. That was big for my wife and I. Patriotism, we're total suckers for patriotic stuff. We got red, white, and blue stuff everywhere. So we're big America
Yeah.
family, and our boys love their country. And so I think for us, for the modern family, is just this urge to get your fitness and your wellness and your faith, because that's spiritual fitness, and get that really solid and really sound and really put some passion in that. and put some, and lead in that, and make them go to the child care at the gym if that's what's needed, because eventually they'll be out there doing classes with you. And then the other one was food, man. We made food really important, still do. I know you do as well, especially that morning time, right? I know we talked about this in the last podcast, but I'm just concerned, man. I see these modern families where the kids have humpbacks because they're doing video games. I see little babies at 2 that are being babysat on an iPad and a phone. So at age 2 or even younger, they're in this degenerative Parkinson's, old lady, old man in a walker posture. They're starting it early. And we know how also with that is the digital dementia of the constant blue light hitting their retina. They're not getting enough time away. And then all of a sudden their hippocampus starts shrinking and they start getting forgetful and their scores in school go down. I see this with families, man. And we have so many kids on antidepressants now and anti-anxiety, and we are so far downstream of helping these children right now. So we have to stay in the game, Nick.
Yeah, we do have to stay in the game. I love just listening to you, man. Some of the things that you say, some of the words you use, I don't know what they mean, but most of them I do.
Yeah, no, you're
No,
on it, man.
but no, I just say that jokingly because I what I don't know the right word, but I have this
Revere,
massive
like
amount
Paul
of
Revere. No.
yeah, like I revere you. You are very like I aspire to continue to be like you in a lot of ways, man. I just appreciate all the things that you bring that are valuable and relatable. And a couple things that made me think of, I wanted to give you a couple updates because one thing, respect my kids. When I unfortunately I don't live close to my parents, but of course we're a phone call away. Now, in regards to the screen, I'm okay with my family speaking, my kids speaking to my parents via FaceTime. Obviously it's a pretty cool way to connect.
Great way.
But yesterday I am sitting in the counter and my oldest son, Owen, he wants to call Nona, my mom, and wants to FaceTime. So I FaceTime her. Well, right when I FaceTime her, he starts getting like wild and crazy and screaming and yelling, and she's trying to talk and he's screaming and yelling. And I'm like, okay, mom, I got to call you back. So she's like, okay. So I hung up and I said, Owen, this is no different than what we've been working on, buddy. If I'm in a conversation with someone and they're speaking or I'm speaking, you have to be patient. You have to wait, and you have to give them the respect to share what it is that they need to share before you respond. Like it's rude to be screaming and yelling when we're on the phone with Nona, who you wanted to call. So you have to take a step back and you have to listen. Well, he got a little frustrated, right? And he's like, okay. But anyway, long story short, I called my mom back and I said, hey, mom, I want to let you know that the boys and I are practicing respect on FaceTime right now. So I'm going to speak really quickly, and then I'm going to pass to Owen, and he's going to be the only one that talks. And then he's going to pass it to Sawyer, and then Sawyer's going to be the only one that talks. And then we're going to be done and we're going to say goodbye. And my mom's like, okay. It was like this exercise, So we did it. And the boys, like, they laughed their way through it kind of at the end, but it was great, And then we called my dad and they did it like right away. They mimicked it. It was amazing, So that just reminds me, because every time I talk with you, I talk about how you mentioned like the importance of like respecting the way, the space that you give people to talk.
Hey, cultivating that spirit the way you're doing that, I just want to encourage you, because I'm now still reaping the benefits of that with a 31 and 29-year-old. Like, we still see them both exhibit a really appropriate high emotional intelligence in all things social and public and work related. They both have that tool that's built in their hard drive. They don't know any different than respect. Because for me, I wasn't like a big spanker, maybe a couple times, because I never really had to, because most of the time the idea of something like that was all you needed. But for me was just a little pinch in the traps there. Just a little one. You're not going to damage them, but it sure shuts them down pretty quickly as far as respect. But it was like, and I love what you're doing. That was brilliant. I hope the listeners, they're going to benefit from that one, because you're not seeing that anymore. And again, I'm encouraged lately because there are young moms that are like that. They come into my practice and they run a tight ship, but not in a loving way. It's a very gracious thing. It's inborn in all of us, I believe, but it also, for many of us, it wasn't modeled. Um, Strictness was modeled for me and with my dad, and my mom had the layer of love. So together, corporately, it worked out kind of how my wife and I have it going, but ours was more intentional. Theirs just kind of happened. Dad was the
Mm-hmm.
scary one, and mom was the get over here, and she'd still be upset. She could hurt you with words, like, but it was never mean. It was more like, you disappointed me. It's like, oh, that was worse than any spanking I ever got was that from my mom. But you guys are doing great. I'm excited for it. And I think one little thing in there too is how kids carry themselves publicly, with this digital posture. It does affect their ability to relate to adults. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's important that we teach our children how to respect people that are older than them, but also how to relate to them and have a conversation with them, because most adults that I know, when a kid engages them in that way, they love it. They embrace it. I know you do that. If you find a young man or woman that comes to you and engages you in an adult kind of way, you're just going to be drawn into that. You're going to have a great conversation with that young kid. And you and I both experienced that as coaches and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Where you just have a connection because their parents taught them how to respect people and how to have know where the boundaries are. Like, hey, Dr. Ronnie, he's been through a lot more than you've been through. He's 59. You're 19 or you're 9. So you need to know he's 50 more years. He's been through pain and agony and perseverance and things that we all go through, and it's what makes us better human beings if we embrace all that stuff and persevere and have endurance and go not isolate myself. And so I'm encouraged, man. I think there are. You encouraged? Are you seeing some young people up in Idaho, young families that encourage you?
Ah, dude, I mean, every day I see people that encourage me in this realm, and I think that that's something that should be said too. The importance of getting out and about, like you're speaking to, like being active, getting your kids into activities that are active, ultimately gets you out and about doing that kind of stuff too. I'm lucky to live right across the street from the Eagle Mountain Bike Park. We're like
Hmm.
just a little hop, skip, and a jump from it, And so, like this morning at 6:15. I feel like I was sleeping in a little, but I don't know. At 6:15, my son Owen, he taps on my shoulder and I look at him and he said, "Hi, it's me, Owen." And I was like, "I know. What do you want? What's up, man?"
I
He's
know
like,
you live here. Yeah.
"It's time for you to get up so we can go on our bike ride."
Aw.
And I was like, "All right, that's fine. Give me 10 minutes, man. I got to get up, get some clothes on. Will you go feed the dogs?" He's like, "Sure." So he's 6 years old. He rolls out, takes the dogs out, gets them fed. I get my clothes on. Next thing you know, we're on a bike ride, and it was awesome, man. I mean, he's like stopping. He's like, "Look at that bird over there. Oh, I've never
Wow.
been that close to this bird." And so in that instance, because I've been constantly taking him out and his brother out to ride his bike, in that instance, he got me out too. And then it creates this, like, inside the family, this um, inner accountability to your health and your wellness. It's like, because as young as he is, I still have days where I'm like, damn, dude, I don't feel like doing anything today. But then when he wants to do it, I'm like, there, you know? Or if he's like, dude, I want to chill and watch the TV, I'm like the one that's like, no, we don't do that in the morning
Right.
time around here. Let's go, let's get out, let's go play. And then the next thing you know, they forget about it. So I think it's important to create that accountability system through your family, and that you just do it by action. You just have to put it into action, man, right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
change what you're doing and find a way to put it into action, right?
That's right. Yep. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
before that for us was those really cool. They call those Burley trailers. We pretty much
Burley
wore one of those.
trailers.
Yeah, it's hooked onto your bike. It's like a little 2-man
Oh,
trailer. So
yeah.
then the next thing you know, they're running, doing the Flintstone bikes, and next thing you know, we're mountain biking in Tahoe and skiing, and there's just you got it all set up just right, man. And you got your wife making you great food too.
Making me great food and making me
Yeah.
great babies. I mean, she's the reason my kids are so smart and like healthy. She's one of those people that you're referring to that gives me a lot of hope. A woman who she does her research on what foods to eat, what foods not to eat, what protein to get, which by the way, there's this protein called Just Ingredients that I love. It's all whey protein, animal protein, super clean. I don't, have you heard of them before?
I have.
Just,
Yeah, they are
Just
clean.
Ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I enjoy their stuff. But anyway, she like has got all the research going and she's keeping us healthy. But in the meantime, she's growing this baby, you know, and so she has the discipline on the kids to the point where they take her very seriously. And at the end of the day, who do they want to go to? Who do they run to? Mama Bear, right? So she gives me a lot of hope in that sense too,
I
man.
love that.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
rad.
love that. So I love that you're doing that with your
Hey,
kids, because we were talking off show earlier about what kind of sports to get your kids in that are going to help
yeah,
prevent this horrible posture I talked about. And so we do spinal correction in our practices, and there are, wherever you live, practices similar to ours that do corrective spinal work, but we partner with things like with what you do with getting kids into yoga and getting kids into regular balance work like that. And so if you kind of do that yoga chiro thing with your kids don't need a lot of chiro, but you get them on the right corrective exercises. We'll put kids on these little Denner rolls, they're little neck orthotics that my boys laid on, and it kept that cervical curvature perfect, because most of the kids we're seeing now, their cervical curves are being reversed and they're getting this forward head carriage, and it's leading to a rounding of the upper back and internal rotation of the shoulders. We're seeing elbow, wrist, thumb issues in kids where they have poor lung function because their rib cage is compressed in on their sternum in the front, and your ribs can't open properly when you're internally rotated into that posture, as you know. And so we're seeing this in pandemic proportions in our practice. It's amazing. All across society, you look now, and you're putting these heavy, heavy book bags on these kids. You're having them sit in these horrifically, poorly ergonomically styled chairs. Then you're letting them live their life on technology, and it's just sad. And versus what you're doing is I gave my kids some techno time. I gave them a little bit, but I had my kids doing assisted pull-ups when they're in diapers. They love to hang on to stuff. So assisted pull-ups, had them doing air squats at an early age, and then my kind of yoga flow that I had going, but I've learned more from you in working in your class. And I do that stuff with them. And we do that early in the morning like you do. I think that's amazing to get a ride to start the day. There's a
yeah,
kid that started his day right, man, because
dang right.
you get that brain derived neurotropic factor levels up when you do that. The BDNF, which is the miracle grow in your brain, which is stimulated through movement and exercise, in particular cardio. Then you
Hmm.
send them off to school with all this brain active and ripe for planting, and hopefully they have teachers that are planting them good information about things that are going to help society, not divide society. And so I think parents need to understand and be, don't lose control of the situation. Too many parents, the kids get too old, it's too late. They begin to rebel at age 11 now.
Hmm.
10 kids are Parents are letting kids rebel younger and younger than ever before. And so I think this focus on fitness, faith, family, and food, right? And I know we could come up with some more F's, but maybe some friendship and fellowship too, which
Yeah,
community,
yeah.
with good quality friends and good community around you of people that maybe think similar to you, but also some that don't think similar to you, just so that your kids are challenged and everything's not just the same. So I think, we can, and that's what's cool about sports, in my opinion, because you can get a melting pot of cultural, racial, or religious differences on a ball field, but yet all come together in the spirit of sport and show that at the end of the day, humans are better together than they are in isolation, right?
Dang
And you
right,
being
man.
a professional athlete in your own right, um, and that helps kids self-esteem. Learning they can work in a team environment. Hey, I maybe wasn't MVP or all league, but I sure stopped that goal. I came and swept through. I was in my position, or I did the assist to the assist that led to the score. Right? I
Right.
didn't go in the
Or
stat book, but
I mean, even it's fun watching that and talking about that because my kid Owen, he's in U8, but he's 6, so he's 2 years younger. And this was the first season that he was in that younger division. And the whole team that I was coaching his team, they were all younger kids. And so we played some older kids and we lost. I think we lost 3 out of 5 games or 3 out of 6 games or something, And Owen, at one point, he was like, I don't think any team has ever lost this many games in a season. I said, Owen, you have to lose them to win them. It's all about experience, man. It's all about
Right.
experience, right? In the last game, he's like, if we win this game, we can be 500, 3-3. I'm
There you
like, it's
go.
perfect, And so we're out there, and we ended up losing, but it was cool at the end because he's like, you know what? Everybody did such a great job, even this kid, and he's never played before. And so it was interesting to see how it went from we have to win, we have to score to the end of the season where it was like, you know what? It was neat to see everybody grow. Like you said, like people, he and his little mind started to realize the bigger scale, like thinking bigger than just himself. And I feel like that's one of the greatest lessons that a kid can learn, is because if you're starting to think bigger than yourself, then typically you're coming from a place more of service than you are of selfishness.
Right.
So I was really encouraged by it, just like seeing his perspective change. It's so cool that we're talking about kids in the next generation, Ronnie. I'm so down with preaching the good word and making a difference for the future generation, because ultimately that's who's going to make this world continue to move forward in a better way.
I agree, and I think kids need they need community, and they need to be avoiding isolation. And we have to set up boundaries and rules, like sleep rules. For me, was no food within 3 hours of bedtime. And a lot of people on watching the podcast are gonna go, "Yeah, but we get home from soccer at 8:30 and they're starving." And I'm like going, one of the number one causes of somebody feeling starving is because they're dehydrated. That's a reflex in our body. Is when you're thirsty or you're undernourished with water, you are gonna feel hunger pains and you're gonna have to eat. And it's the wrong reflex, tricking your brain. Go to bed a little bit hungry, but pound some water and do better the next day on your water, because we talked about that. Getting water earlier in the day, trying to not drink too much at once. If you're doing water right, you really shouldn't have to drink a lot of water with a meal. If you're doing water wrong, you're going to be parched with a meal. And really, you don't want to drink a lot of water with a meal other than to, gargle your mouth a little bit and get more food down. You don't
Mhm.
want to dilute your enzymatic activities in your stomach too much, right? And so if you're doing water properly first thing in the morning, like you do, adding some electrolytes, there's great products out there, like you mentioned, with the protein powders and the electrolytes. There's so much at our disposal on the web right now. Oh, by the way, a quick rabbit trail on that is
Yeah,
have everyone use Yuka, Yuka. I get paid no money for promoting them, but it's a
Yuka.
really, yeah, yucca or yucca. Anyway, you just have a scanner. It scans different foods, shampoos, cleaning detergents, anything you're going to buy at the market. Scan it, and it gives you a score out of 100. And if it gets a bad, or either way, it'll show you down below some recommendations of same product line or same genre, healthier product, and start cleaning out your household and cleaning out your diet. And like you said earlier, there's some bad foods out there, but there's some really good products out there. There really is. And
Yeah.
so I think with your children, with water and also sleep, not letting them do technology to bedtime, turning the TV off, reading books, reading something light, something not scary, something funny, something light. Maybe it's a perpetual story you're reading with them, but that's dark sleep sanctuary. You don't want a bunch of lights on your kid's ceiling with fake stars and all that stuff. I know it's cool, and my son had that for a while, but then as I learned more, I was like, nope, we're done. I want him to be pitch dark in there so that their nervous system and their body can get the rest and recovery that it needs. Where
Mm.
your cells repair and where testosterone kicks in and growth hormone kicks in and stem cell factories crank up in your body when you get in that deep sleep, which is the early part of the sleep for the kid. So making sure they go into that sleep, because if they have food in their belly, a lot of these kids never get into that deep sleep. Then they don't get the benefits from that, and they look run down. You see kids with bags under their eyes, and they're just not getting it because they're doing all that blue light and they're eating too late, and they're eating sugar late. That's the worst thing.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
like snack packs, that's one thing that's been interesting to me. Like it
Oh,
used to be you go to a soccer game and at halftime or after the game they have orange slices. Now they have snack packs, and the snack packs
oh.
are just loaded with sugar and shit. And it's 6 o'clock at night and your kid wants to pound down Chips Ahoy and a Reese's peanut butter and all these different things. And it's like,
Oh,
no, no, buddy, not right now.
I don't know who started that program, but that is bad. You don't see that in Italy
No, you don't, man.
or
Well, and
Spain.
you can tell a lot by the snack packs that you're getting from other families too. Not to like judge. I mean, I think as human beings, we kind of just judge in general. But
Yeah.
it's funny because when Katie makes a snack pack, there's actually like some fruit in it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's just different for every family in
At
some way.
least one
But
of you stepping up to the plate. But
yeah,
I guess
that's right.
what really frustrates me in that is how it's not known how important that is for the development of your child's
Right.
brain, nervous system. Same with the blue light. How it's not known that that's bad for them. So it's like, two wrongs don't make a right. So you're giving them bad late food, and you're letting them get exposed to this other stressor. Your body is all about adapting to stress, and I feel like with the young people of today, we're putting so many of these stresses on them, and we're letting them do it, so it's really not their fault.
No.
And you just go toward, like, I was raised for half my childhood on Pop Tarts. My
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad didn't know what they didn't know, and we had vegetables with dinner and whatnot, and we still ate a good country meal, but there was a lot of sweets in between, right?
Yeah.
Ice creams late at night, 8:30 p.m. Big bowl of ice cream,
Totally. With some
you
Hershey's
know,
syrup on top, all
yeah,
that
and then you're
stuff.
passing out at 10,
Yeah.
and you never get into deep sleep where autophagy happens. I've been studying that. Some people call it autophagy. I don't know how you pronounce it. I thought autophagy sounded cooler, but anyway, it's this process. It's this
It
process
does.
in my body that where my cells will get broken down, the damaged ones and the bad ones, and the usable parts will be recycled into a brand new cell. It's this fascinating kind of thing. And then our body will break down the other parts and get rid of it. And so autophagy is dependent on all these things we talk about: diet, nutrition, hydration, mindset, technology, sleep sanctuary, rhythms and routines, gratitude. We had a gratitude journal for the boys growing up too. End of each day being thankful that we're on this 67,000 mile an hour ball called Earth going around a hot object while spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Just to respect the little things, like, wow, we are so lucky to be on this planet, and to get your kids into a sunrise mountain bike ride. How cool is that? And then seeing the sunset with them is such a fun family thing, right? Where you just say, hey, the sun went down, it's dark, time to come in.
Yeah.
So
I know.
anyway, I appreciate you, what you're doing with your kids, man, because it really concerns me. And I'm a pediatric chiropractor. Well, I'm a cradle to grave chiropractor. I'll work on anybody that's before me that could benefit from what I do. And we are the chiropractic practice that does it with our clients too. We are a done with you, not done for you. There's things I could do for you that you probably couldn't do for yourself. But if you're not willing to do the done for you part, we have a really hard time establishing a really good, vibrant relationship with people. Um, we get people that say that in the beginning because they're desperate and they're in pain, and they know we can help them, and they'll be yes men and women at that point. And then our biggest and greatest challenge is to shift their thinking, which is very difficult to do. People they just don't know. And I don't know why that people for some reason chose to give health over to others in their life. I just
Mm.
don't get that. Like, how do we not advocate for, because to me, like, health is what gets it done, man. All my hobbies, all my interests, my job, my relationships, how I look at the world, man, health is such an important part of that. I don't want to be sick. Life stinks when you're always sick. And it's just not fun. It's not vibrant. You're not your true self. And I just don't understand why people don't want that. And I just want people to advocate for themselves. So we do it with our clients in the sense of, hey, you got to adopt some of these principles if you're going to play with us. if you're going to go into the sandbox where we do health and wellness, you've got to agree that you will do some exercising and that you will get into fitness and nutrition and that you will take better care of your body and that you'll take better care of your routines on rest and recovery and that you'll begin to shift your mindset of how you look at humanity, even yourself.
Mm.
Because how many of these people at the end of the day, beneath all this is a really low self-esteem anyway. And so, they don't really care for themselves anyway. So then, therefore, why would they make healthy habit changes? So I think it is bringing people hope and making them realize they're amazing, right? They're a child of God. They are loved and they are of value in the society. And I think, gosh, COVID made that way worse, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there's so
Mm.
much to talk about, right?
I know. I just thought about another topic that we could slide down a bunny hill for another
What's
hour
that
and a
one?
half. Well,
What's
just
that?
I mean, just how you're speaking to people and why it is that they don't want to take care of themselves, or why the root cause of it. When we talk about the root cause of something, and then
I
you
know.
talked about their self-esteem and their low self-esteem, and what came up for me is how people really don't slow down or disconnect enough to take the time to actually feel and experience what it's feeling like in their body, from their past experiences, how they grew up, how they were treated when they grew up, the traumatic events that they went through, up to that point. All that stuff is stored in their body, and a majority of people won't slow down or disconnect enough to actually feel that. And so instead of feeling it, they avoid feeling it, and they avoid feeling it by eating crappy foods that taste good or make them feel better, or drinking or smoking, or
Yep.
doing all the different things that really distract themselves from their own physical sensations and body, because they just don't want to feel that stuff again, or they don't want to relive it. But really, I think the way out is through. You got to slow down, get present, disconnect, go visit, like, and be a partner with someone like you, Dr. Sims, or go to Spotted Dog Yoga, or go anywhere, like get into biking, get into hiking, and get present and get into your body. And I think if you can really focus on getting into your body, then ultimately you're going to feel emotions, but they're not going, and you're going to be more comfortable with them, and they're not going to ruin, and they're not going to rule and govern your life anymore. But if and all the time people spend disconnecting from those sensations and emotions, that those things just rule them. And then
Yeah.
everything they do, every decision they make for them and for the next generation, right, full circle, it impacts them.
Yeah. And so essentially what you just unpacked there is that what we want to encourage people to do is to slow down and begin to assemble maybe even a team of people in their life. Maybe it's your yoga coach and your chiropractor and your marriage and family counselor, right? I refer out to counseling as much as any modality in my practice, just because I'm a big believer in meeting with a professional and going through some, work on your past, and dealing with some of these things so that you can begin to reshape how you view yourself and begin to get confidence again. And if you're paralleling that with a fitness class, and there's this one lady only fitness thing where I'll have some of my clients go because I take care of one of the owners. I'm blanking on the name. You probably know the name.
Is it a Kaya Fit?
Yeah, Kaya Fit. Yeah, Kaya Fit.
Kaya
So
Fit, yeah.
anyway, then I have another client similar who goes and works out at your place, but they also see counselors and they also see me. And so, if you asked and interviewed each of those individuals, they would really say it's this teamwork makes the dream work. And then I've been able to surround myself with people that are for me. They really are. They're for me physically, they're for me biochemically, they're for me emotionally and mentally, and they're there as my accountability. And so I think for us, it's easy to do it when people are in a crisis and they're coming in where they've hit rock bottom and they're in a pain crisis or they have sciatica or some terrible back condition, right? They land
Yeah.
in our lap, and we're able to unpack the layers of the onion because, like you said, so far often it's an unresolved trauma that they are storing physically in their brain and their nervous system, their physical body, and their muscles from something they never dealt with that happened to them when they were a child. I see that a lot. And then be able to get them to the right professional who can help unravel that is when you see these beautiful breakthroughs. You know, you see these transformations, and you've seen them and I've seen them, and we don't pretend to know the whole story, right? We learn as
Yep.
much as we can or what they're willing to give us, but we know there's a story going on, and it's a beautiful one. You can see
Yeah.
the beauty in it, and it's fun to watch from the grandstands. It's fun to be in the sidelines with them too, wherever God wants me in that role, because I have multiple practitioners, so I get to watch in on some of these transformations where people get their whole lifestyle revamped, and it came out of the ashes of a severe crisis or a car accident or some traumatic military event. I've had several of those lately
Yeah.
where, yeah, you're having chronic headaches because you have unresolved PTSD and brain damage, and all the SPECT scans show it. And that's what's cool now is there's resources out there to heal your brain and to heal your mind. And, you just got to have a willingness, because what you're saying earlier is so true. Is a lot of people are so busy trying to just survive that they get hooked on dependency of marijuana and alcohol and prescription meds, and they fulfill that void and numb themselves even further. Then you really get into a deep, deep place and a dark place. And that's where you're seeing now, sadly, more and more self-harm in our society than ever. Gosh, growing up, you would hear of it happening. It would be shocking, right?
Right.
Now it's so frequent to know that 22 soldiers a day are doing self-harm on themselves with unresolved PTSD. And shame on us, right, for bringing them back to a downstream, unholistic approach. That's not what they deserve for what they did. They deserve something, as Dr. Atia would say, healthcare 3.0, which is well, well upstream of where American healthcare is, and begin to help these soldiers congruently and the children of soldiers. We're talking about children on this episode. Let's
Yeah.
not talk about the trickle down effect of a shattered soldier coming back that has kids here and a wife. I mean, come on, man. And so we're going to give them drugs, and we're not going to have them go see counselors, and we're going to make them wait in these long VA lines to get their services. And we're not going to teach them how to advocate for themselves. The only ones that advocate for themselves in the VA system, because we see these folks, are the ones that were colonels or generals or captains of a high order, that they go in there in their military mindset and they get whatever they want, because the people that are on that end are almost somewhat intimidated by the authoritarian posture of some of these VAs. But that's less than 5% of the guys and gals. The other 95+% can't advocate for themselves at all. And there's great organizations out there to help these guys too. And again, as a healthcare provider, it's not our job to hoard them. And you're only coming to my practice, and you're only going to be with me, and I got you. That's not a good coach at all. A good coach is like, hey, you need to go get in this yoga flow. You need to go, speak with this therapist here. We'll help you with the diet. And then we're going to have you meet with one of my clients who's going to help you advocate better for yourself at the VA and know
Exactly.
what to say, and get some coaching and get people around you that are in. There's people out there that are for you. There's a nonprofit in Folsom called Warfighter Overwatch. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's for military, police, and fire, I believe, and it's to help people that have been victims of PTSD related stuff. And the
Hmm.
purpose is to cut back and down decrease the rate of suicides, and to begin to help these soldiers recover. And it was started by a guy, Danny and Fawn. Can't remember the last name. It got nonprofit of the year last year in California. But anyway, it kind
Wow.
of ties in with what we're talking about of the mental health of helping these soldiers, helping them be in community. They get them in
Yeah.
community right away. They get them around people. They go on hunts. They go on hikes. Many are disabled. They do amazing events, and they get the Folsom community all around behind them. And it's really cool to see. Is it going to change that 22 a day? Maybe, maybe not, but it's not going to speed up because of these folks. They're making a huge difference. And one of the founders, the husband, his wife found him after his attempt on his own life. And he came out of that and said, I'm going to make a difference.
Mm.
Amazing story. You could read it online, but
Yeah, I
that's
got
what our
to.
community needs. We need to bring, you and I need to bring people together. We need to
Yeah.
all think of others. We need to be more kind and more gentle with others, and we need to love people more. If we could all have our towel over our forearm and be more loving. And sometimes love is tough. You and I know that. Sometimes you got to speak
Yeah.
the plain truth. I call it, I get compassionate when I speak to groups. I spoke to a big group last week and I felt myself getting kind of ramped up. And I call it compassion, where I'm kind of compassionate, but I'm also a little bit peed off about how our society's going. And so you mix that together, and I think it inspires people. Probably scares some people, but yeah, whatever.
Well, some the people that scare, it's good for them too. The person
Yep.
that comes in and disrupts the
Yep.
pattern is ultimately like the person that we want to pay attention to, I think, or somebody that really like ticks you off or irritates you. There's always something to learn from there. They're there to disrupt the pattern, man.
They are. They are.
Yeah, for sure. You can't always sugarcoat it, man. You can't always sugarcoat it. That just doesn't
Yeah, you
work.
just got to speak from your heart
Yep.
with empathy, but also passion. And there's so many examples of great speeches that just got us fired up, and but it had a lot of passion in it. Because a lot of what's going on is wrong in our
Yeah.
society. American health, it's wrong. It's not working. We've proven that again and again and again. And the pandemic just revealed that in full color for us all to see,
Yeah.
that we are an unhealthy flock, an unhealthy herd, and our government is not out for our benefit as it relates to health. They just aren't. They might try to help us financially and give us some tax benefits and student loan stuff and da 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 da, throw some stuff at us. But there's too much money involved with the way our food is manufactured. It's a system that would be very hard to break down. The good news for you and I is we have these new tools at our disposal by which we can assess for our own family what's right and what's healthy. And there are better products. There are regenerative farmers, more in Idaho and California probably, but there are people that are regrowing the earth that are in a glyphosate free zone. I've heard in California they might outlaw glyphosate. I don't know if that's true, but I heard
I heard that
Idaho.
too.
I heard Idaho already outlawed it. Is
Yeah.
that
That's
true?
good to know.
No more
I don't
broadcasting of glyphosate.
Well, I know I heard about California and I'm not quite sure about Idaho, but I feel like I heard that it had outlawed it.
Good.
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing like putting some Roundup on your chips and sucking them down, right? But people don't know that, don't realize like, your food here has a lot of stuff in it. It's not so good for you. Well, Dr. Ron Sims, good buddy. Thank you,
Hmm.
man.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I love talking with you.
Yeah.
You can I'm happy to come on anytime if we're going to talk about kids and health and all that.
Yeah, well, you definitely add a lot of value to our show and to my life. Selfishly, I get an hour to catch up with you, and at some point, I know it's on my bucket list to get out there and ride some sweet mountain bike rides with you out in California.
Or
For all y'all that,
I come to see
oh
you because
yeah,
my uncle lives in Idaho. I would probably just have to demo a bike out there.
dang right, man. Well, you're welcome anytime, of course, and
I
I
would
would
love
love
that.
that.
That would be
That'd be
so fun.
sweet, man.
I'll be out there in the
Um,
next 4 to 6 months, and we'll get together.
where does he live?
He lives on a beautiful ranch in Eagle, Idaho.
Oh, he does. Your uncle's here.
Yeah, it's my wife's
Oh,
uncle. He's got about a 15-acre ranch out on the edge of Eagle,
oh,
out toward the
dude.
mountains. Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you're right down, he's right down the street from where we are. Well, good then. I'm going to see you, man. That's going to be great. Everybody make sure you check out Dr. Ron Sims' business, Back to Health Family Chiropractic. It's all over the Sacramento Valley and he's doing amazing work from how did you say it earlier? From child to
Oh,
what
from
did you
cradle to
say?
grave.
From cradle to grave, Dr. Ron Sims, from cradle to grave. You're the man, brother. I appreciate you. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up today?
No, I just appreciate congruent, like-minded people that really care about health. So you inspire me. I really love what you're doing. I follow all your stuff on Facebook. And I think it's great what you're doing. It's very inspiring. And so keep it up and keep doing all this stuff because it is making a difference. So
You got it, man. Thank you. You're awesome. And same to you, man. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to Play Hard and Love Big Radio, the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and SUP. Check us out at spotteddogyoga.com and make sure that you check out Back to Health Chiropractic with Dr. Ron Sims and all his amazing associates. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Peace.